Fanmail! Lovely. I'm Captain Xavier. Let's do this thing. The usual announcements of events I'm going to be going to. I will be going to BritCon in the beginning of October. I'll be bringing my castle. I've already started the upgrades on that. Should be a lot of fun. I plan to attend the Mall Mutation Madness in early October and the Nerfing for Autism in late October. I will then also be hosting my usual Halloween event here at my place. At least that's the current plan. We'll see how things actually work out. Answer some questions. Michael Nimrod, do you have a favorite MMORPG? Well, if Elite Dangerous counts as an MMORPG, then Elite Dangerous. If it doesn't, then I don't have one because I don't play any, because most of them are first-person shooters and they make me motion sick. So, yeah. Joey the Mattress Stealer. I'm building a minifig scale Lego Antonov AN-26, and I want to know your take on it. My take? I haven't seen it. I mean, it sounds neat. I'm not particularly familiar with that aircraft. I googled it to see what it was, but send me pictures when you're done. I'd love to see it. Post them somewhere. Julian Nixon, on the topic of first-person games. How do you feel about Mech Warrior? I've never played Mech Warrior, but I do enjoy mech games. One of the earliest games that I had, decent graphics at the time, was Heavy Gear. And I later got my hands on Heavy Gear 2, and I did enjoy those. Heavy Gear I could play without any issue. The graphics were simple enough that it didn't give me any issues. Heavy Gear 2, it did. I could only play it for a little while before I started getting wibbly. But I definitely enjoyed them a great deal. Cohen Kuiman. Would you like to have an Ultra Saber's lightsaber? If so, which one? I mean, sure. If I really desperately wanted one, I'd already have one because I'm an adult and I've got money. But the ones that, there isn't one. I went through the website to be able to answer this question because I couldn't have answered it before. And there were a couple that jumped out at me that I thought were really cool. The Malice, because it looks like you could actually just use it as a regular melee weapon without the blade. The Crimson Menace, which in the pictures looks more orange than red, though that might just be the lighting. An orange anodized lightsaber would actually be really cool. The Flamberge, I know a lot of people think that lightsabers with crossguards are silly, but crossguards are incredibly useful in a fight. So I think it's a neat idea. And then the Dark Saber is just cool looking. So, I mean, yeah, they've got some that I think are pretty neat. None that I have to have and that I'm going to spend money to get, though. Telemachus 2814. Have you ever been to the Quad Cities in Illinois/Iowa? Not that I know of. I couldn't tell you what the Quad Cities are, so probably not. Nathan Christensen. Do you think a Ken Burns style adaptation of World War Z could work well? I'm not familiar enough with Ken Burns to be able to really answer that. Again, vague Google search turned up that he does documentaries, and I think that could work if it was, a hybrid documentary kind of flashback thing, because that's kind of how the book World War Z was written. Is it takes place after the apocalypse, after we've retaken the world from the zombies, and it's a journalist going through finding eyewitness accounts of what happened. And so it's a series of basically short stories of various people of what happened when it first started, what happened when it was just getting started, what happened when it was in full swing and everything was going to hell, and then finally how things started getting better. And it's from different people's perspectives, different views, and it's like journal entries and eyewitness interviews. And so you could do it where he's doing the interview and the person starts telling the story and then it flashes to their memory of it, and then you could still have action and zombie stuff and scariness and all of that, whilst also having the feel of the actual book. The movie World War Z that came out, the only thing similar between it and the book is the title. There's pretty much nothing else that even vaguely resembled anything that happened in the book. I think the only thing was kind of how Israel dealt with the plague, but not quite. They still changed a lot of things. Yeah, that I think that could be done. I don't know that it would be a huge success in the box office, but it would be more true to how the book was written. Rosetta Foster. What building tricks have you been most impressed by, whether you use them in your own builds or someone else's build? This is a Lego question. One of the neatest techniques that I've seen recently was in the 90th anniversary castle, the Lion King's castle. And it's a section of the wall where when it's all folded up, it creates kind of a balcony. But when you open that wall up, it turns into a bridge. And the wall that was going around the balcony is hinged and socketed in such a way that when it opens up, it creates a solid wall perfectly in front of the bridge, but then when you fold it up, it folds in and around the balcony. It was just a really, really clever technique, and the fact that it all fits together perfectly was really just baffling that they were able to do that. Barasta. When you were a kid, what did you want to be when you were older? A soldier. I wanted to be a soldier, and life had other plans for me. A movie actor was also always on the list because everyone, like, I always liked acting, but soldier was top of my list. And then I got into computers, and my plan was to do computers and then go into the military doing computer stuff. But again, life had other plans for me, so here I am doing Nerf stuff on YouTube. Josiah Mayfield, have you acquired any more hammer shots recently? I think I did. I think at the last Borst War I acquired a hammer shot. And a Trailblazer, I believe. Dance Macabre. Fabulous handle. Have you seen Prey yet? And what are your thoughts on it? I have, and I loved it. In my opinion, it had the same feel as the original 2. In that it was just a hunt. The ones that came out, there was one, I didn't even know it had come out. I did not even know The Predator existed. I knew about Predators, and that one wasn't bad. I enjoyed that one where instead of hunting on our planet, they take us to a game preserve planet and drop us off there and hunt us. And that had, some weird elements. They introduced another kind of Predator, and then there was some interesting stuff going on there, but The Predator is where they tried to get clever with it, where they're not just hunting us for sport, they've got other reasons and other motives, and they're doing new stuff. And while innovation is often a good idea, it's definitely a good idea to try it some once in a while. Most of the time it doesn't work out. And I didn't like what they did there. Whereas in Prey, it felt like the old stuff. It was just a hunt. And a lot of the complaints were that, well, how could a primitive society and a girl take on this predator? Which seemed weird to me because in the original one, in Predator, when Schwarzenegger, who's, Mr. Universe, huge muscly guy, tries to take on the predator toe-to-toe, he gets slapped around like a rag doll. And that was the point, is that you couldn't use brawn against them because they were better. And when we try to use our most modern technology, guns and whatnot, that didn't work out either because their technology was so much more advanced to us. They ended up using a bow and Boy Scout traps to take him out. And that was the whole thing. And if you've read the comic books, that was always the thing. It was never technology or brute strength. That it was always the fact that we were clever. That we were, at the predators tend to be overconfident. They, assume that we're just monkeys that they can easily kill, and then the monkey does something tricky and drops a tree on you. And in the second Predator movie, again, he was able to use, guns to a degree, but in the end, he ended up using their own technology against him. He used their own weapon to kill him. And that was, again, being tricky and being able to get a hold of it and all of that. It never came down to brute strength or their level of technology. Compared to the Predators with their interplanetary space travel and their plasma weapons, us modern humans are primitive. We've barely made it off of our planet yet. We don't have plasma weapons. We're getting there, but we're still primitive. And so the fact that she managed to take him out using, again, simple trap, the quicksand, and his own weapon, that felt like the spirit of the old movies and the old comic books, and I really enjoyed it. I like that the French characters all speak French and their subtitles are in French. I could figure out some of what they were saying because I studied French, but not well enough to catch everything. I could read most of it, but I found that interesting and amusing, and I also really enjoyed that, you know, this took place 700 or 300 years before the first two movies, and the Predator's technology is a little bit more primitive. Not, you know, he doesn't have a plasma caster, and the Predator looks a little bit different, as if they have evolved a bit over the last 300 years, as well as their technology advancing over the course of the last 300 years. I like the expanding shield. That was neat. That was a cool thing, and the fact that he used it offensively, I particularly liked that he used it offensively. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I like it, but I go out of my way to find things to enjoy about movies that I watch. I've taken the time out of my day or spent money to watch it. I'm going to look for the things that I enjoy rather than looking for things to complain about, because the world is full of things to complain about. I'm not going to go out of my way to complain about things that were for entertainment in general. So yeah. There's my thoughts, my ramble. Take it as you see fit. Brandon Keller. Are full-length darts superior to half darts in flywheelers? They probably used to be, but at this point, flywheel technology has gotten to the point that not really anymore. I mean, we have so many incredibly powerful half dart blasters. Things like the Pew Pew and the Concept Pistol and the Phoenix 2.0, and there are advantages that they have over full-length darts. Part of the problem with this question is superior based on what metric. From my understanding, and this might not be the case anymore either, you can typically get full-length darts to have a higher FPS because they're longer, and so they're in the flywheels longer, and so you can impart more energy onto them. They also have more mass, which means that they will tend to travel farther. Now, how much? Is it significant? How have other developments come? I don't know. I don't try to build anything past 150 FPS because I can't use it in any of the events I go to. So I couldn't really tell you what's going on at the high end anymore. I can tell you that at 150, no, there's really no difference. And half darts you can carry twice as many in the same amount of storage. So, but at the same time, my primary blaster is still a full length flywheel. So. Yeah, there's a lot of this and that and these and those and it kind of still depends on what you like. Stunt Matt, is it possible the cheesecake you had in New York was from Venerio? Venerios? Sounds like a place you get treated for STDs, or get STDs. It could have been, I have no idea. It was like 10 years ago. I have absolutely no memory of where it was. I just know it was delicious, and I have wanted more ever since. And finally, Nova. How would one tune an Alpha Trooper to shoot more accurately? Aim for the middle. But seriously, unless you're doing something like a sealed breach, you're probably not going to get a whole lot of accuracy. You could try a scar barrel, but again, if it's not from a sealed breach, it's probably, I mean, it's probably just going to get stuck. Mine, I don't go really for accuracy as much because I use it for HVZ and I use it when the enemy is less than 25 feet away. And I can hit a man-sized target with it at 25 feet every time. If you're going for longer range, yeah, you're probably going to need to go to a sealed breach kind of thing. Or at least an improved breach. Having a stock breach, from, where it's just the barrel, it doesn't have any kind of an actual sealed breach. There's really not a whole lot you can do for accuracy. Maybe get a half dart kit. I'm pretty sure, I know there's an Alpha Trooper half dart kit. That's probably going to be more accurate, just because half darts tend to be superior in springers. Can't tell you about flywheelers, but yeah, mostly wait till the target's good and close. Take that! Aha! Direct hit! I have no package today. At least not from fans. I got sent a bunch of cool stuff from Dart Zone. Should have the reviews coming out next week. Looking forward to that. as well as a range day with those new blasters. I got parts from Franz Foamworks for some builds that I want to do. I hope to have that done for next Friday. I do, however, have an letter. So I'm going to read the letter. Hello, Captain Xavier. It was nice to meet you at UMBC Invitational this year, and I hope to see you again next year. That was my first large-scale HVZ. Ooh, that's tough. Going to one that was that well run is going to set the bar for how good all future ones should be, and that can be a little rough when they're not. And while I enjoyed playing a human, I found I didn't really like being a zombie. It's interesting. I've met people that prefer to play zombies. Most people want to be human because, you know, that's kind of the game. I've met a couple of people that much prefer to be zombies, mostly because they find it less stressful. I don't make a good zombie because I can't run well, and so I prefer to be a human, but yeah, you know, to each their preference. As a human, I realized quickly that I liked being a lone hunter that harasses the zombie horde. This, of course, means that I have a short life expectancy, so I expect to become a zombie somewhat quickly. Yes, that is just correct. Strength in numbers. If you go out on your own, you're almost certainly going to have a short life. But it can be very valuable to have that loner that attacks the zombies and draws them off because they think you're an easy target and they will chase after you. And so it's a perfectly viable playstyle. But yeah, you're probably going to have a short life expectancy. As a zombie, I felt like I needed to stay with the horde, but similar to being a human, I prefer not to be in a large group. Do you have any thoughts on how to be an effective zombie as a lone wolf? Well, maybe it's not really possible, but I'm curious if you have any ideas. I figured I could try to sneak attacks by being patient in a hidden location. Yeah, you're obviously going to have to be sneaky. You're never going to be able to just rush a horde of humans if they know you're there. Ambush, you know, wait in the bushes, wait around corners. If you can figure out where the humans have to go or where they're likely to go, where their starting point is, where their ending point is, those are places to set up ambushes. Being nonchalant, being sneaky, don't act like a zombie. You obviously have to wear your headband, so you are going to stand out. But staying in the shadows, you're probably never gonna be hugely effective. Really, what you need is two people, one to distract so the other can attack. And that's a lot less than, you know, a small group. Obviously, Corporal Nikon and I believe a fellow named Riley were particularly good at this, where one would distract the human column and the other would attack them from behind, and they were able to take out a lot of humans that way. All by yourself, it's going to be a lot more difficult. Obviously, being in the large group is typically more effective because the whole advantage the zombies have is numbers. There are always more zombies, and there are increasingly more zombies. But if that is not the way, but I understand not wanting to be stuck in the horde that just keeps charging the humans and getting hosed over and over again. So, yeah, figure out how you enjoy to play, and it may take you a couple of games to really find your stride and what works for you and what you enjoy. But don't be afraid to play the way that you want. You don't have to stay in the big horde. There is nothing to say you have to stay in the horde. So. Alright, I was also able to attend End War this year, but I felt like the game mechanic were lackluster. See above about attending a really good event as your first. Since game mechanics is one of the things I'm most interested in, I'm also a little disappointed. However, it made me start contemplating how I could run an HVZ, and I hope to make the most about it on my website, GameModRepository.com. Link will be in the description. They have a fabulous collection of game types, and I actually need to take a look at it again because we were actually at our local game. People were complaining about games getting stagnant. We always run the same games every war. Can we try some new stuff? And so I need to take a look there and see if there's any that we haven't run or ones that I've got the MacGuffins for or whatnot to keep things interesting. Stagnation is never ever good in something that's done for entertainment because you get bored. So. Anyway, sometime in the future, once I have a chance to properly research it. I know you have your game theory series, but do you have any other suggestions on possible resources for learning about different game mechanics for large-scale HVZ? Yes, reach out to the game mods of the big HVZs. Pretty much every college campus on this country at one point used to have an HVZ. There's a lot fewer now than there used to be because of plague and all sorts of other things, but reach out to the mods of UMBC, of PSU. A bunch of them are on the Fun server, the old auxiliary, what was the auxiliary server. There's folks from PSU there, there's folks from UMBC there. Find the people that are running the good ones and talk to them about it. As far as I know, there aren't any... The problem with trying to create a central source for it is there's just too much variation. Every single HVZ I've ever been to, and I've been to quite a few, have been different. They've had different mechanics, different supers, different spawn rules, different stun rules, different scenarios, different missions. And that's what keeps it interesting. That's, again, stagnation is the problem, and you don't have that problem when you travel to a lot of different HVZs because they are all different. And it really does keep it interesting and keep it fun. It would, of course, be great to attend a variety, but alas, time and money becomes an issue there. Yes, that is the big issue. And like I said, there used to be like 700 different HVZ clubs in America. Pretty much every single college campus had one. But there's a lot fewer now, and so trying to find them, and especially the big invitationals, because a lot of them it's just the campus club and they do their own little small thing. They don't allow people who aren't students to come to them. It's the big ones are the ones. So we've got End War, UMBC. We used to have PSU. Hopefully this next year we'll have Ragnarok Oktoberfest again, and hopefully they'll start opening up again more and more, and more people will be able to go to them. So yeah, but reach out to the people who are running the big ones. And even that, reach out to the small ones, because some of the coolest mechanics that I've encountered were at much smaller HVZs. Ones where they weren't worried about, they were a small enough group that they could try all kinds of weird and wacky things. UMBC is well known for running, they run 2 games a week, and that allows them a huge variety, because they can try something new they've never tried before, and maybe it'll work and maybe it doesn't, but there's no big loss if Monday night game doesn't go so well this week. We'll try something different on Thursday. If you try really weird and interesting things at something like End War or UMBC and it doesn't work, you risk the game collapsing, because it's very difficult to maintain balance for a 500-person game that only runs for 1 day. If the zombies get too much of an advantage and they wipe the humans out before lunch, what do you do? If by mission 3 there's only 10 zombies for 500 humans, what do you do? Trying to maintain that balance is very, very tricky, and I feel that most people who attend the big invitationals don't truly appreciate how difficult it is for the mods to maintain balance on the fly. They have to be able to respond to things as they happen to prevent the game from unraveling, or no one's going to have any fun. They're going to have to do a hard reset, it's going to get confusing. It's really very, very complicated. And so they tend to go with simpler, well-tested, tried and true, easily balanced mechanics. If you get too complicated, if you get too much variety in one of those, you start to have problems. So you have too many different super zombies. If you have really weird mechanics on your super zombies and they're not well communicated, things fall apart really quickly. So balance is the key, and simplicity is easier to balance. It does make it less interesting. It can make it a little, like you said, lackluster, but it doesn't fall apart as easily. So, one thing I've been thinking about is given the popularity of the Proton Pack and high-capacity hopper-fed blasters, how can the designers counteract them in interesting ways? We could, of course, create a special zombie that is immune to rival, but I don't think that is all that interesting, although it is simple. I thought of 2 special zombie mechanics that might be interesting. My initial knee-jerk reaction of that is don't target specific players. That's never a good idea. That feels... it's bad enough that the mods are trying to get the humans killed, because that is their mission, that is their goal. They have to, because if there aren't zombies, you're not playing humans versus zombies. So the mods are trying to get you killed. But targeting people because of their loadouts is gonna be unpopular. But the rise of proton packs has, that was one of the big concerns when things like the Nemesis came out. Is that this is gonna change HVZ forever, and it didn't. And then the Prometheus came out, and this was going to change HVH forever, and it didn't. The mods adapted. But that is what you're talking about, is how do we adapt to proton packs that now have hundreds, if not thousands of rounds? Because could that change HVH forever? Probably not, but it won't because of mechanics like this. So let's take a look at your mechanics. The first, named the Berserker, walks while inactive or stunned and runs while active. It respawns as soon as there are no humans within 30 feet. The Berserker has 3 possible states: stunned, inactive, active. They become activated whenever they are tagged by a rival bull. This includes when they are stunned, i.e. they don't need to be 30 away to respawn, but instead are instantly active when they are tagged by rival. While inactive, this zombie can be stunned by any ammo other than rival. While active, this zombie can only be stunned by socks, or their equivalent. Once activated, this zombie will immediately run and try to zombify a player carrying a hopper-fed blaster. If they successfully tag a player using a hopper-fed blaster, they must retreat 30 feet from any human before they can start again. While active, this zombie cannot tag players that are not carrying hopper-fed blasters. While inactive, this zombie can tag any player. The mods can balance the power of this zombie by placing a limit on the number of players they can tag that are using hopper-fed blasters before they lose the ability. You can also adjust the distance that they must respawn away. The intent of the Berserker is to make players monitor where they're tagging rather than just spraying down the zombie horde. I also like the irony that once activated, they can only be stopped by unsophisticated socks. Do you think this special like this would be overpowered? Do you think players would feel unjustly targeted because they are using hopper-fed blasters? Do you think it's too complicated? Yes, yes, and yes. Maybe not overpowered. I've seen similar mechanics. There was I think it was called a charger at GCC, where once they were activated, they ran in a straight line and could not be stunned by anything until they stopped. And this was a way of breaking up, a solid line during a hold. There was no way to stop them. They would just charge. You just had to open up and let them run through, get out of their way, because they could tag as they charged through. And if you didn't get out of the way, then you were just hosed. As soon as they stopped, then you could immediately tag them. But it broke up the formation a lot. And then the horde could rush in behind them while you're trying to make sure this guy didn't tag you. So having unstunnable zombies that have some, there were also zombies that could only be taken out by socks or heavy ammo, stuff like that. Those mechanics have been done, so rival wouldn't work against them. My big concern is the overcomplication. The fact that there's 3 states, the fact that it took, a third of a sheet of paper to explain those rules would suggest that it is too complicated. That they can only tag one during one state and they can only tag another in another state, and there's no good way, as from what you described, for the players to know what the current state of said zombie is. That I feel would lead to people being upset by, well, I thought this, well, they did this, or how about this, or what, again, overly complicated. Now, something like UMBC's one, weekly game, you could definitely try a mechanic like this. I would not want to try this at a big invitational. It's too complicated, and trying to make sure, when you get briefed in the morning and they explain this zombie to you by the afternoon, you've forgotten how it works, and the zombie will probably forget how it works. I've seen that happen too, where zombies had mechanics that were somewhat ambiguous or weren't well explained, and so the humans thought this is how it worked and the zombie thought this is how it worked, and neither of them were right, and they eventually had to go to a mod and get a clarification. But by then, a lot of people have been tagged, and then it turns out they've been tagged in a way that they shouldn't have been able to be tagged with, but you see the problem. And obviously the hopper-fed people are going to feel set upon. If you feel that hopper-fed blasters are going to be an issue, I would rather see something like putting a max cap on the size of the hopper. Obviously, the stock hoppers on the Prometheus, that's 200 rounds. You'd be amazed how fast you can go through that. You'd be amazed how fast you can go through the 400 rounds in a stock proton pack. Now, it'll take you a while to go through the full tank on Tier or my Smart Gun, because they hold, 1,800 or 2,000 rounds. But even then, you can go through it pretty quick. And once you're out, you're out. It's real difficult to reload a proton pack in a hurry. I would lean more towards the first suggestion you had of just having a zombie that's immune to melee. Something that can only be taken out by socks or heavy ammo. It's simpler, it's well known, but it is effective. Alternatively, if you can find a way to really easily and quickly denote the state of the zombie, some kind of a MacGuffin, a hat, a light, a sash, something that can make it really clear what the current status of that zombie is, then you might be able to manage that. But I still feel that one's a little bit too complicated. And again, the fact that it's specifically targeting very specific players, I would argue isn't fair. Now they have the option of not bringing that blaster. I don't think it would be a popular mechanic. Let's take a look at the second one. The second one is called the Claymore. It can only walk and has the same stun timer as regular zombies. The Claymore acts as a transport/mine. They carry a shield or something similar over their head. Up to 5 regular zombies can hold onto the shield. While holding the shield, the regular zombies are unstunnable. As soon as they let go of the shield, they can be stunned just like regular zombies. Once the Claymore zombie gets to within 10 feet of the human, they automatically detonate, release the attached regular zombies. Claymore zombies can only be stunned in the back. When stunned, they detonate, release the other zombies. Note, the regular zombies can choose to leave the shield earlier rather than waiting for it to detonate. Regular zombies are not allowed to purposely block the back of the torso of the Claymore to prevent the human from getting a tag. Claymore zombies cannot themselves tag any players. The intent of the Claymore is to make it easy to get in close during large holds. Similar above, do you think this mechanic, special mechanic, this is overpowered? Do you think it's too complicated? This one I like. I don't think it's overpowered because we have things like boomers that just, turn into a zombie spawn point and can go off within 5 feet of the human line, and that's absolutely terrifying. If anything, compared to a boomer, this feels slightly underpowered because it goes off 10 feet. 10 feet is a long way to try to cover against a firing line. I don't think it's overly complicated either. Now, it would be cumbersome for the zombies to move. The one part of this that I would work on tweaking is the whole shot in the back. I would simply have it that it detonates when hit, and that the zombies that are holding on to it are specifically allowed to block it. So I would have it go off at will. So it can get as close to the humans as it wants. It can run right into the middle of the group and detonate, which would force them to scatter, similar to the chargers. Basically, I would make this a charger that explodes. But I would make it so that if the humans manage to hit the Claymore, then it detonate. But the zombies that are attached to it, the 5 zombies, are specifically able and allowed to try to guard it. That way they could come in. I'm not sure I would make them walk. I think I would actually give them the ability to run. So they have to form up, the 5 zombies, around the center zombie, the Claymore zombie, and they can rush the human line as soon as they can either detonate when the Claymore wants to, or they detonate when it's hit. I think that would be an interesting mechanic, because it would definitely force the humans to clear an area around it. And if they manage to detonate the zombie early, then that's all well and good. It would have a normal restun time, and as per usual. But I actually that's a really clever twist again on that charger, but an exploding charger. That is a cool mechanic. I would actually like to see that one utilized. And it's one of those little tweaks. You had your thoughts on how it. I have my thoughts on it. We made, if you test it in the field, you might discover both of those don't work at all. And that's why we do play testing. But that one, I think I definitely like that one more than the other one. And it would again would have a way to get around just the ignorant amount of firepower that humans have these days. Though, I mean, the last couple HVZs I went to, even with all the firepower we had, it didn't make a difference. So we'll see. The other thing I thought about was whether the mods could link the purchase of zombie upgrades to turning in rival ammo. That way, the more that proton packs get used, the stronger the zombies get. It also means that garden weasels could become a desirable equipment for zombies. This could, of course, be abused by players turning in their unused rival rounds, but I honestly don't have that big of an issue with that. People spend lots of money on blasters, so why not let them spend money to get zombie upgrades in the form of turning in ammo? The mods could just price other things to could adjust the price or other things to help balance. For example, at the beginning of the day, they could have 5 shields available for purchase for 100 rival rounds each. But at lunchtime, it's only 3 shields and costs 250 rounds each. Really, it's just another game balancing mechanism and a way for clubs to get ammo / encourage players to pick it up. Any thoughts? This I also like. I don't know that I'd make it specific to rival ammo. I think it would just be ammo. And I've definitely seen games where this is a mechanic. I like the idea of zombies cleaning up ammo in order to get upgrades. As you said, there is the potential of people just, buying 1,000 rounds of ammo, whether it be rival or regular ammo, and then just turning it in order to buy upgrades. It's, if you've seen my video on it, it's like bringing Skittles to Catan or water to Afterworlds. But like you said, yes, humans can spend a lot of money to get a really powerful blaster, and that can make a huge difference. I would, you can, and again, you could do things like having a cap on how much one person can turn in, how much you can turn in at a time. You could say you can't, it's got to be ammo that was picked up, and then just hope people don't cheat. Or you might just go ahead and allow it. Again, this is something that would need a lot of play testing of, what happens if, 5 minutes in, every single zombie is now a super zombie. Is that gonna, wreck the game? But if you have a limit of how many MacGuffins there even are to buy, that would be a good way to limit that. You're like, okay, there's 5 MacGuffins to be bought. Yeah, you could just bring your own ammo that you bought, turn it all in, unlock all 5 right from the get-go, but then there's no more. Again, balance. Definitely like the thought on that one, because I think zombies should have more. There should be more for zombies to do than just kill humans. Some of the most enjoyable HVZs I've seen were ones where the zombies had their own missions that were separate from the humans, or that were intertwined. The 2 missions were mutually exclusive. The zombies were trying to do X, the humans were trying to do Y, but they could not both be done. Or there was a separate group of humans that were tasked with trying to stop the zombies from doing their thing. At the same time, zombies were trying to do their thing while preventing the humans from doing their thing. Perhaps rather than buying upgrades, you have missions to get upgrades. I really like the picking up ammo and returning it as a mechanic, because it helps, yeah, as you said, clean up as you go. The zombies have, a good incentive to get the ammo. And then, proton packs aren't a problem anymore. At that point, it's upgrade, fuel. You just charge the humans as much as you can to get them to dump as much rounds into you, and then you just pick it all up and go. I dig that. Finally, as always, I appreciate your positive impact on our community and wish you a long life, at least until you get too tired and decide to let the zombies have you. I have no intention of letting the zombies have me, but you don't always get the choice. Sincerely, Adam from Game Mode Repository. Again, link in the description. That was, I enjoyed that. That was cool. Thanks for that. Yes, more game mechanics. More game mechanics for HVZ. Keep it interesting. Keep it balanced. Especially since, us humans aren't stopping our arms race anytime soon. I see no reason why the zombies shouldn't get to evolve as well. All right. There it is. I'm done. Thank you so much for your questions. Thank you for the letter. I'm gonna go work on stuff.